Hey guys, it's Smudge here, and it's my very great pleasure in order to be bringing you a video today featuring the Focke-Wulf FW190 Dora. Now this has only just been released for DCS, where it has been delayed for a couple of days unfortunately, but it's here eventually. So what I wanted to do now is to make a video featuring this particular aircraft and see if we can show its handling characteristics, how it flies, and see if we can get it airborne and show it off a bit. So the first thing I'm going to go through is the startup sequence and a bit about the aircraft operations, then the taxiing sequence, and hopefully a takeoff. Now, this isn't my first flight per se. I have had one successful flight, but that's been previously followed by about 5 or 6 failed takeoff attempts. It is one incredibly difficult aircraft to get off the ground. I have actually tried recording this video once previously, and it ended up in a steaming hulk in the middle of the runway. So yeah, I've decided to restart this, see if we can make a better showing of it. The video I was putting up, I didn't think that I was going to be making a particularly good video to watch. So let's have a look at this. Now, looking around the aircraft, I have read the full manual, so I have a certain idea about what a lot of the switches do and what it involves. So we'll just go around the cockpit clockwise here and go over a lot of the switches and buttons. So first things here, that we have radio controls here. That's radio volume. You've got a radio tuning knob and then preset channels, much like what you have in the Mustang. Beneath the throttle here, if I just move this from off into idle, you've got the flap switches here and the undercarriage switches, and then this knob here is for the elevator trim. Now, one thing I do find very strange about the Focke-Wulf is that it doesn't seem to have aileron or rudder trim. It's only got elevator trim, which seems very odd to me, because surely the rudder is kind of one thing that's quite important to trim in order to keep the aircraft flying straight. But apparently on this aircraft it's not necessary. Or it doesn't have it. And then next to that you have the throttle, which again, like the Mustang, has got a twist grip here. And what that twist grip changes, if we look on this side of the gun sight, is the gun sight range, which you can see here. And then that makes the gun sight slightly programmable to show the range to target for your gun convergence. Then you have the magnetos for switching on the engine, so we'll just move those up into both. This is the instrument lighting knob here. Fuel tank selector knob, you've got aft, forward and both. You've got the rocket arming switches and bomb arming switches down here. You've got the fuel tank gauge selection switch here, which you can move from forward, off and back. Now I'll show you on this gauge here how much fuel's in each tank. Now, also looking at the gauges here, these two gauges are to do with engine temperature and coolant temperature. And it's very important to keep an eye on those to make sure that you're not going to overheat and kill the engine. Up here you've got the master arm switch for the machine guns and cannons, and then you've got lights showing that your guns and cannons are armed, and also ammo counters, which is very handy as well. And now down this side of the cockpit you've got the circuit breakers for the electrics, the batteries and the generators, and then the fuel bump and fuel boost pump circuit breakers down here. Now the last two gauges that you have here is a cannon correction control here, which is for aligning the cannons to the gun sight, and also an emergency oxygen button. So if you find that you're blacking out through altitude or oxygen starvation, you just hit that button there, that pushes in, and then that pushes 100% oxygen into your face, which should hopefully bring you back to life. Right, so let's go through the startup sequence now and see if we can bring this aircraft to life. So the first thing to do is to switch on the circuit breakers, which are on the black buttons. Which helps if I can hit them with my mouse here. So I'll just turn those two on. The last two is the generator and the battery. And when we turn the battery on, that starts bringing everything to life here. Now as you can see, the cockpit lights come on. If you don't like that, you can turn them off or turn them up using the brightness knob here. We'll leave them about there, it just makes them slightly easier to read. And then you've got the horizontal cage there, which then kind of allows you to cage and uncage the artificial horizon. Right, and then down this side you've got the FW190 and fuel boost pump circuit breakers. And then the last one at the top here, this one here is just for the navigation lights. You just press that down to come on, you hit the red button there, and then they go off. And that's the circuit breakers. So the next step is to make sure that the throttle is from off, which is there, into idle. The magnetos, which we've already put into both. The fuel tank selector switch, which can then move up into both. There is a fuel pump priming switch here, which you can depress to pump fuel into the engine. But apparently it isn't necessary to start. It can start regardless of that. Underneath this little switch here, you've got the flywheel and engine starting switch. Now what you need to do is hold down that button. It spins up a flywheel in the engine. You hold it down for about 25 seconds. You then pull the button up. It engages a crank into the flywheel, which then starts turning the engine and hopefully brings it to life. So let's do that now. So we'll hold down the flywheel engage button here. That should start spinning it up. We'll hold this down for about 20 to 25 seconds. You can just faintly hear it in the background there. There we go, and then we'll pull it up there. And the engine fires. Awesome. Nice easy startup sequence, especially compared to the likes of the Mustang. And then the last thing to do here is just to close the crank on the canopy here. And then that's shut in our bubble and ready to take off. So now that the aircraft's powered, I'll just show you that's the aircraft armament or master on there for the cannons, showing that that's live. And then you've got the gun sight power switch here. And then once you start ranging in the gun sight, that then changes the width of the gun sight there, but you still keep the center point. So I'll just turn it off for now as it's not required. So with taxiing, what you need to do is hold the stick backwards. This locks the tail wheel, so you hold it backwards when you're traveling straight. If you need to turn, what you do is that you just push the stick forward slightly. That unlocks the tail wheel and allows you to turn. Now, unlike the Mustang, you can't turn using the rudders. You have to use the wheel brakes. It is very unresponsive using the rudder, and it becomes very tricky in order to make the aircraft turn. So what we'll do, I'll just hold this back so that we're traveling straight coming out of the aircraft hangar here. And then we'll just slowly bring up the throttle here to allow us to start rolling forwards. I'll be controlling our direction just with a little bit of brake input here. So here we go, I'll just push the stick forward here just to unlock the tail wheel, and then use the brakes just like that in order to help the aircraft turn the corner there. And then just a little bit of counter brake there to stop us from pointing in the wrong direction. So here we go. Just using the brakes there just to turn the aircraft, and then using the other brake just to stop us from turning too far. Then when we're pointing just about straight, pull the stick back there, just helps lock up the tail wheel and allows you to travel straight. Now for shallow turns you can turn with the tail wheel locked, but you find that you get very limited movement. Right, so we'll just hold short of the runway here. I'll just hit our brakes here just to help slow us down a little bit. So, right, we'll just go through our slight pre-flight checks here. So we already know that the flaps are in the takeoff position by the orange light there. I like to set the trims just back a little bit, just to help us off the ground. And everything else should be ready and set to go. So we'll just pull onto the runway here, and see if we can get airborne without killing ourselves. Again, just using the brakes here just to allow us to turn onto the runway centerline. And then I'll pull back on the stick here just to lock the tail wheel, make sure that we're running straight. Now on the takeoff roll, what we want to do is gently ease up the throttle to about 20 to 25 100 RPM on the gauge here. One thing I do need, or have noticed, is that you do need to put in a bit of right aileron to stop the aircraft from rolling over, because she does like rolling over to the left, and numerous times I've failed by smashing the left wingtip into the ground. And then what we'll do, we'll just hold the stick back until we get to about 120 to 150 kilometers an hour, and then we'll just bring the stick forward, allow the tail to lift off the ground, and then try and control it with the rudder and see if we can get airborne without killing ourselves. So here we go. So I'm going to start slowly bringing up the throttle here, just gently rolling down the runway. I don't want to advance it too quickly. Again, just using rudder inputs, trying not to touch the brakes. And just gently increasing the throttle a bit more here. Again, holding the stick back. Gently increasing the throttle just a little bit more. There we go. So we're nearly at 200 there, so I'll bring the stick to center. Oops, and she's all over the place again. Ah, fucking hell. Unbelievable. And that's yet another failed takeoff. That is just how difficult it is to get this thing off the ground. And there's a nice smoking heap in the runway with a bit of debris scattered everywhere just for good measure. So yeah, that's the FW190. Quite easy to start, quite easy to taxi, damn near impossible to get off the ground. It is something that I do need to practice a little bit more and see if we can get this thing airborne. And that's Smudge signing off for now, and I'll hopefully have another video very shortly with how to successfully take off the ground. Wouldn't that be something? This is Smudge saying bye for now and take care.